for the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees, November 14th, 2023.
Ms. Orch?
Here.
Mr. Unger?
Here.
Mr. Waller?
Here.
Is there a need for executive session?
I would request that the board move to go into executive session in accordance with Ohio Revised Code Section 121.22G1 to discuss the compensation of public employees, in accordance with G3 to discuss pending or imminent litigation, and in accordance with G4 to discuss collective bargaining sessions.
I motion that we would go into executive session for the reasons detailed by Administrator Weckbach.
I'll second that.
Ms. Orch?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Okay, we'll be back by 7. It's officially 7 o'clock. Time to open the meeting up for the Board of Trustees. Jeff, you want to take attendance?
Ms. Orch?
Here.
Mr. Unger?
Here.
Mr. Waller?
Here.
And is there anything to report back from executive session?
Nothing to report.
Okay, let's stand up and do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And for tonight's meditation, on Saturday, we laid to rest Matthew Welbrock, which is a member of our firefighting family. And I'd like us to pray for Matthew's short-lived life and his family and all the people that will miss him here at Colerain and our firefighter family. May he rest in peace. Okay. Do we have approval of minutes, Mr. Baker?
Yes, thank you, Board. I have the minutes of the meeting that was held on October 24th, 2023.
I motion that we approve the minutes from the meeting of October 24th, 2023.
I'll second that.
No discussion from me?
None?
Ms. Orr?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Thank you, Board.
Thank you, Board. The first item tonight under presentations is a presentation for Chip Berquist, recognizing his years of service to our community and many communities. Chip is retiring, and so we put together this proclamation that I'm hoping one of you all will read into the record and then take action on.
Dan would like to read it.
I would like to read it. Hello, Chip. Hello, Mrs. Berquist. We have reached a great point in time. Proclamation for Chip Berquist for his years of dedicated service to Colerain Township, Ohio. Whereas Chip Berquist graduated from Indiana University Bloomington, where he studied telecommunications and began working at Waycross Community Media in 1988. And whereas Chip became the executive director at Waycross in 1996, beginning a long and illustrious career. Chip is only the second executive director in Waycross's 41-year history. And whereas Chip managed the purchase and renovation of the building where they are located and managed the transition from 3/4-inch tapes to SVHS tapes to mini DV to digital media, along with the transition from SD to high def. And whereas Chip has worked diligently to encourage legislation that supports media at both the state and national levels, including education drives and testimony in 2007 in Columbus for Senate Bill 117, which was the cable television bill. And whereas Chip has been instrumental in providing media services for Colerain Township, he is retiring from Waycross Media after 35 years of dedicated service to the community. Therefore, be it resolved that the Colerain Township Board of Trustees recognizes Chip Berquist for his dedication and enthusiasm working with Colerain Township for our media needs. Chip has contributed greatly to our community during his tenure with Waycross Media. Be it further resolved that in recognition of all that Chip Berquist has done for Colerain Township, the Colerain Township Board of Trustees hereby proclaim Wednesday, November 15th, 2023, as a special day of recognition for Chip Berquist and to acknowledge his contributions to our community and wish him continued success and the enjoyment of retirement. And I would motion that we would approve this proclamation.
I'll second.
Discussion. I met you in 2006 when I was thinking about running for the school board, and at the time, none of those meetings were televised, and I believe you had a contract with Springfield Township and with Forest Park, and I think Waycross was a different sized operation at the time, and you came over and started recording our meetings at the school district, and yet they were only being shown in 2 precincts in the Pleasant Run area of Springfield Township. And over a long period of time, and at the time Colerain Township was not interested in Waycross, but you helped us get our school board meetings on over in Green by printing off a DVD of each meeting, and I personally drove those over for a year and a half to Bob Leibold over at Green, and you took the school board out of the school board meetings and put it in people's houses, which I think went a long way for our Northwest School District. There was a real struggle to get you into Colerain, and we finally did that. And I'm just as pleased as anything. And all you folks watching at home that are wondering how those meetings get out, it's because of people like Chip Berquist and his lifelong dedication to transparency in government is the reason that exists. And you are to be congratulated. And I'd also like to recognize you as Waycross's newest volunteer cameraman starting in 2 months.
Oh.
Because I'm thinking that this just kind of opens up a lot of time in your schedule, and you'll be right back after sitting out your 60 days and you join a fine group of volunteers who has supported not just these meetings or our zoning meetings and our community events and not just Northwest School District, but all over the place. So congratulations to you.
I have not got to meet you, but congratulations on your retirement. And we love Dana and whoever's in the back room now.
All right, I'd just like to add my thanks for all the hard work you guys have done keeping government transparent so that people can watch it. I know that this is viewed by millions across the world, so. But it's, and I teach this to my kids in government class. When I started 25 years ago, I did all federal government. Now I do a big hefty dose of local government because it's at this level we can make changes, and I'm glad you're here to record it and help people daily. So thank you so much.
And if you wanted to make a comment, Chip, because a lot of people have actually never seen you and wouldn't be able to pick you out of a lineup because you've always been behind the scenes.
Now they get to film you.
Keep in mind your comments are before their vote, so.
Uh-oh.
Please turn on the mic.
The mic is on. I checked that before the
He
meeting.
tested it before.
I'm used to being on the other side of the camera, but I just want to say thank you. I appreciate the recognition, and I've enjoyed working with Colerain Township and all of our communities for the past 35, 40 years. So thank you.
Thank you.
You're a very good man, Chip.
Thank you, sir.
I believe Jeff Baker stepped out to make a copy of the proclamation for the official record, so he should be back in just a moment.
So
Let's say other nice things about Chip.
should we make a motion now to approve, or we need to wait till Jeff?
We already
You guys already
motioned
made
and
the motion.
seconded.
Okay, so we need a vote, so we'll wait for Mr. Baker.
Mrs. Berquist, are you prepared for this opening in his schedule? And that sounds like the ideal marriage. There you go. Well, I'm sure you'll have plenty for Chip to do around the house. But no, it's been quite a nice ride, Chip, for so many years, and I just remember the struggle it was to even get our meetings televised over at Northwest starting in 2006, and people can see what's going on, and it's just been huge, and what we've been able to accomplish. And here comes Mr. Baker
And would
now.
you like a picture? Oh, shoot. I could take, you got your camera and take a bit.
He's got,
Oh, you
we
got
got a good,
videos.
vid- we
Okay,
got a
okay.
good, we have a good video.
Well, I just want to double check because a lot of people get their picture taken. Just want to
So
ask.
now I think we just need you to call for a vote, Mr. Baker.
Ms. Orch?
Yes,
Mr. Unger?
Yes,
Mr. Waller?
Absolutely, yes, thank you.
and congratulations.
thank you. You don't have to stay.
You can stay.
You can watch it. Yeah, you better go.
Well, thank you so much, and
Thank you.
I'll probably see you tomorrow.
All right, board, the next item on the agenda is a public hearing. This is for zoning case ZA 2023-19, and I believe David Miller is going to come up to introduce that item. This is a map amendment request from B2 to R3 for 7102 Springdale Road.
Good evening, board. Once again, this is case ZA 2023-19. It is a zoning change from B2 to R3, 7102 Springdale Road. Quick background on this. The homeowners have owned the home since, I think, 1967. Live there in a single-family residence on Springdale. They're the last house before you get to Harrison. And recently, a year ago, the husband died. The wife has lived there for the past year, and it's time for them to sell the home. And as they worked through a realtor to get a contract in, the realtor and the bank inquired about the zoning. And at some point, when we rewrote our entire zoning code, we changed the zoning on that particular building, that home, from residential to commercial. It appears that we just kind of took that whole corner, because right across the street there is a commercial establishment there. And so it was just part of, I think, the process. And they got caught up in that. And the bank would not approve the loan for the sale. And so they came to the Zoning Commission October 17th and approached the Zoning Commission of what their options were. Zoning Commission requested this, and so we drafted it. Zoning Commission approved it unanimously, and so now the zoning change is before you for this.
So I'd like to open up a public hearing on case ZA 2023-19, zoning map amendment from B2 to R3 for 7102 Springdale Road, parcel 510-0360-016800.
I'll second.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
I did speak to the applicant, who's also the daughter of the homeowner, and she had attended both previous meetings with the Zoning Commission and spoke, but she did not plan to attend tonight.
Is there anyone that wishes to speak at the public meeting?
Seeing none, I'll motion to close the public hearing case ZA 22319, zoning map amendment from B2 to R3 for 7102 Springdale Road, parcel 510-0360-016800.
I'll second the motion to close it.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
And then later, during the meeting, we'll have a vote on the actual resolution to accept or deny the zoning change.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so now we come into citizen address, and there are none. So,
And no one.
unless somebody didn't fill out a form, does anybody want to speak tonight? No, that's a shocker. Okay, that gets us to administrative reports.
Yes, and to kick things off tonight, we'll start with the fire department and Chief Alan Walls for his administrative report.
Good evening, Chief.
Good evening to the board and everyone in attendance this evening and those online. Our activity for October of 2023, we had 823 EMS incidents. We responded to 182 fire incidents. We made 28 responses into the Pleasant Run EMS contract area and 3 into the West College Hill Golfway EMS contract area. We had no significant building fires, so there was no property value lost. You could say then that we saved $1.3 billion. We have a 94.08% save rate for 2023, and our average response time for the arrival of the first unit was 4 minutes and 56 seconds, and first unit on the scene was 71.41%, and that's less than 6 minutes. And that's my administrative report, unless anybody has questions for me.
Yes, I'd like you to read into the report, if you could, the text from the family member from Matthew Welbrock.
Sure.
Thank you.
So I received a text message on Tuesday, correction, on Monday, that stated, I want you to know again, our family will always remember what you and your staff did for our family. It was heartfelt, and we are extremely grateful for all that was done for us. Your team defines public service at its very best. We are forever thankful. Thank you again. And that was from Mike Hopkins, Matthew Welbach's uncle.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, and I'm so sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
All right, next administrative report will be given by Chief Ed Cordy from the Police Department.
Evening, board.
Good evening.
A little behind here today with our internet going out. Haven't been able to pull up everything as best as I can. All right. For the month, we had 3,960 calls for service, which is a 4.5% increase. Going through a couple different dashboards at once. Bear with me. It looks like our OVIs are actually down for the month. We had 7, if I recall correctly. Here they are, pulling it up. 302 traffic stops, 7 OVI arrests, 7 OVIs and 106 arrests for the month. 302 traffic stops. Go down a little bit there for me, Jeff. Our use of force, we actually had a pretty busy use of force for the month, with going across here, and it's not working. It's great when the internet works, but it's really bad when it doesn't, right?
Do you maybe want to turn it off and turn it on again?
Yeah, we tried that a couple times, and I think Robert did the same, and it did not work. We had 6 uses of force for the month, 5 of which were taser deployments. That's pretty high for us, to by far the most we've had through the entire year, but to be honest with you, as soon as you start increasing your proactive policing and the different efforts and with the crime rates the way that they are and as they're going up, the more that people are going to actively resist. As we talked about prior to this evening, we all heard the sirens and felt the rumblers as they shook the building. As I told a couple folks in here that one of our officers were fighting somebody that was directly at Walmart just tonight. So again, the type of criminal activity that's occurring, as well as the proactive policing that we're starting to do, a 50% increase in traffic stops in the last few months. That's the type of behavior that you're going to have in response to it. We had 1 pursuit for the month, and we opened 3 internal investigations, 2 of which were immediately able to close as immediate exonerations, just due to the ridiculousness of the claims that were not even anything that would be anything to do with police whatsoever. But any questions for me tonight? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Excellent.
All right, thank you, Board. The next report will be presented by Assistant Administrator Tiffany Mays.
Welcome, Ms. Mays.
Good evening, Board.
It's almost the start of your season here, hockey, right?
Oh, we've been going for about 2 months now.
Oh, whoa, way
Yeah.
out, okay.
Reffed a few games, coached a few games, haven't played yet though, so I'm not hitting the trifecta yet. Okay, for public services, we've got some visitor data up there for you. Looks like we're on target for meeting the goal from 2022. We still need a couple areas for improvement, but hopefully with this nicer weather we've been having, we'll see those numbers spike up a little bit. Bags of litter, again, got to pay tribute to our litter guys. They're out there working really hard, picking up a lot of bags of litter. So just trying to make Colerain more beautiful. 2 other items that I'd like to bring to the board's attention is, first, I'd like to thank a lot of people for today for Student Government Day. We hosted a day full of learning about how local government works. We had 10 students from the Northwest Local School District come and visit us all day, and we even did a mock board meeting. So it was really fun, and so I wanted to thank the school for supporting that, and then also our staff who were involved in Ms. Ulrich, who came and helped our president walk through the agenda, so that was great. The last thing I'd like to bring to the board's attention is with the recent passing of issue 2 by the voters, we are contemplating an update to our drug and alcohol policy. There, before the House bill gets signed into law, there's a couple avenues we can go, and we'd like your direction. One is to either keep it a zero tolerance policy, or 2, to lift a little bit of that leniency to allow for our the legal use of recreational marijuana. So I'd like to open the floor for that discussion and get some direction from you all.
Early indications from the state is that it is permissible for us as an employer to continue to have a zero tolerance policy and have it be enforceable if that's the direction we wish to go. Basically, what we understand, though, is there's some nuances that are going to occur if somebody were to say, have recreational marijuana, THC, whatever that is, on the weekend and then show up and drug test, and they would potentially still test positive. And so that will create some potential oddities on the legal front. But from our understanding, we just wanted to triple check with you. The current policy is zero tolerance. If we want to keep it that way, we will certainly keep it that way.
When I went to the OTA convention this past year, or in January, a lot of townships were talking about how they did have to change their policies, and one of them was they had 3 over every a 5-year policy, but after the 5-year, the first one dropped off because they said they would have had to eliminate a lot of people. So I don't think I'm not in favor of a zero tolerance. If somebody does have recreation on the weekend and it does show up, I don't even know how often we randomly test our.
So CDL drivers are required to be randomly tested,
Right.
and they're required to follow federal guidelines. So if they have THC in their system, they would be violating the federal guidelines and potentially be at jeopardy to lose their CDL. Our police department has guidelines for random drug testing, and I believe everyone else in the township falls under reasonable suspicion testing.
Okay, because the part of what they had to bring this up for is not a lot of the hemp. The only way not to have THC in your system is that we were educated on is all CBD oil has THC in it, and it's how long your body's absorbing, how much you're putting in it. So you could never take recreational marijuana and you could still have THC in your system. And only if you use hemp, there's no THC. So every CBD thing out, every item all has THC in it. So that's why they had to adjust their policies. So that was another thing to think of.
I'm in favor of maintaining the zero tolerance policy. I think it's a safety issue. I'm around a lot of heavy commercial equipment, and the state passage of issue 2 does keep us in that quagmire of it's still federally illegal. And as Mr. Weckbach said, commercial driver's licenses require zero tolerance. And if you test positive, you test positive. So I would rather strengthen our policy and make sure that if that's what you're doing, we don't want that in the workplace.
So I'm kind of in between on this because I think what we're ultimately going to have as a law is going to look nothing like issue 2, from what I understand, talking to members of the state Senate, state House. So maybe this is something that we need to look at, but right now there's too many unknowns for me to say, hey, let's come off of what we have right now. Let's let them work it out and see what it looks like afterwards, and there might be some issues then. I've been told a number of different things as to when, hair test is a different thing. Like a hair test could pick up marijuana usage for like weeks or something, I guess.
I think hair is the longest for a year.
Yeah, and there's a lot of variables in here that we don't know yet. Let's let the state figure that out, and then pattern our response to where the state issues. The state is going to give us boundaries of some sort, and I'm sure that every township is going to be bugging the state to say, all right, define this better. And to me, it just is. It's wise to wait till we know what we don't know now.
And for what it's worth, I have reached out to the International City and County Managers Association for a national litmus test on other states and what they've done with their drug policies.
And what have they said?
So far, I've received one response. and it refers to medicinal usage, and they have to approve it through the HR department and get specialized testing.
Right, I heard about the municipal, and then several people were brought up on charges, and, you know, they swore, and they brought it in their CBD oil, and
Yeah, so.
so,
So at
I
the
have a feeling the range is gonna be out there.
Yeah,
And it will
yeah.
ultimately be what are our core values, and does that match with?
Yeah, so what I'm hearing is that we should probably pause for a moment while the state kind of works its way through the actual law. Our current policy, and I'm going to read this into the record for you all, is no employee may report to work, be at work, drive township vehicles, or drive personal vehicles while on township business while under the influence of drugs or alcohol. The penalty for this will be discharge. An employee who tests positive for drugs or alcohol is considered under the influence and will be discharged. So it's a pretty firm statement that if you test and if you have anything in your system according to our current policy, whether you're doing it recreationally on your own time or not, if it's still showing up in your urine test or your blood test or whatever it is, then it will be considered a violation of this
It's
policy.
not legal yet.
yeah, but I think I could still show up for 30 days, so that's what, somebody had something over the weekend and they're not impaired, that was one of the
And ultimately,
situations.
what I'm saying is our current
Right,
policy is
right.
zero tolerance. We
Right.
can revisit this, especially as we look to do a full policy book update in the winter and spring of next year, and hopefully we'll have some clarity from the state and other communities.
So I do appreciate you bringing that to the board, and it sounds like there's a little difference of opinion. Actually, we're in three different places, but Matt, I listened to what you said, and you said you'd rather leave it as is until the state sorts all this out, which would
Yep.
probably be next year. So would it be appropriate for me to go ahead and motion that we keep that policy as is until further action by the board?
I think we won't need a motion to keep it as is. I think we're fine as is without the motion.
Okay, so,
Not updating until. we
so
get
you
one.
understand amongst the three of us, you've asked for direction, so please bring it back to the board if you ever want to change it. For now, it's what it is, because I think something like that would compel a vote of the Board of Trustees.
Yep.
Yep.
So if there's going to be a change, put it on the agenda so it can be discussed in open session and voted on.
And I think it's going to be a very complicated issue.
If we're going to change that policy.
There will be an update just referencing
when you're
the
gonna
House
have them
bills
influence.
and some language about the collective bargaining units and their CDL license, because that language currently does not exist in there. So there will be an update. Ultimately, it'll include those two items, and then moving
Right,
forward.
but
with the-
you will, but so the direction from the board is bring it to the board for an open discussion and a vote and at some future meeting if there's ever going to be the slightest change in it.
Yep, and we'll continue to monitor.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for bringing it up.
All right, and the next department will be development, and that will be Director David Miller.
Quick update, zoning department's been very, very busy. We have issued a total of 74 zoning certificates this last month in October. 48 were just a variety of residential. Interesting as a side of that was 17 new single-family homes being built, and then 12 solar projects. I want to give a shout out to one of our new planners, David Peters. He recently, as they work through the system that they inherited, they're looking, both he and Justin, looking for efficiencies, make things easier. And what David did was he recently went to training with OpenGov, which is the platform that we use for taking in all of our zoning certificates. So got some additional training, came back, wrote a program where all of our solar projects now can be filled out and applied for, and with a 2-minute review, have those issued, because our role in the issuance of solar zoning certificates is very limited, and so that is going to save us department time, and so I just wanted to give him a shout out on that. So that's all I've got right now. If you have any questions.
Thank you, sir.
And board, just for my administrative report, just quick update. We've got many projects ongoing in the township. If you haven't been aware, we do have Phase 3 of Fort Colerain, where there's active construction going on. So if you haven't been to Colerain Park recently, if you stop out there, you'll see lots of dirt being moved as they prep that space. hopefully to have that project done sometime either late this fall if we keep having great weather. We may be in winter at this point, or early next spring for groundbreaking, ribbon cutting, all that fun stuff. So be on the lookout for that. And
Mr. Whitback, I should ask Ms. Mays this. What is the timeline on the basketball courts down off of Blanchetta? Yeah.
that's a good question. I'm not sure what the answer to that one is.
Sorry.
Okay, so a quick update. The YMCA is working with the grant, the LISC Corporation or Foundation to get the monies transferred, and we have an upcoming meeting with them to discuss how that will look. Once we settle all that out, we'll be ready to ground break and get that going. So it looks like it'll be finished in the spring sometime, because we're getting a little bit too late for asphalt and
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff. So and
Just in
painting.
time for Final Four.
Well,
There you
I'll-
go.
well,
I like
I'm gonna
that.
tell you, we just visited Spooky Nook. They have 4 acres of basketball and indoor basketball. They charge $10 a day to play all day. So in case that we don't get it done for the winter.
We'll go there.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And that concludes administrative reports for the evening.
Okay, you want to do the trustee report? You want to go
Sure,
first?
I'll go first. On October 27th, our law director sent us a note concerning legislation at the state level that would increase the competitive bidding threshold for certain Ohio political subdivisions from $50,000 to $75,000. What is our threshold?
Our threshold right now by policy is 50,000. That's something that we can consider raising it to 75,000.
I would like to keep it at 50 so that we're out looking for pricing on things. When you bring that up, that'll be where I'm at on it. I just wanted to mention it at this meeting. Late last week or just before that, Officer Carwish, who was recognized at our last meeting, they had a nice little retirement reception for him, which was a great thing to attend. So congratulations on his retirement. On November 22nd, and I'm going to mess this up, but some Drumpling Buddhist monastery here in Colerain Township, there's a dedication ceremony on Wednesday, November 22nd, which I intend to attend.
I'm looking forward to that.
I'll be there.
I'll be there. I'm excited. We get lunch.
I do go out, and I still take a lot of calls on my phone at 404-3057, and one of them was 3715 Ben Hill, and I sent that to you, and we declared it, we cited it on August 23rd, and I think you are probably working on some type of where are we at with that. I drove past last Saturday, and there's a bunch of stuff there that makes the place non-compliant. I received a nice email, which I forwarded to our police chief. It looks like the city of Cincinnati is having a collaborative effort to recruit police officers from Sergeant Wilson down there, and we've been invited to that. Very recently, a weekend and a half ago, Germania Society held their Christkindl Mart, and it was beautiful weather, and lots and lots of township residents showed up there. The Daily VFW Post is having their turkey shoot this Friday night, November 17th, for those who want to support the Post over there on Browns Way. As everybody knows, there was an election last week, and I'd like to congratulate Matt Wallert on his hard-fought reelection, and Mr. Baker, who prevailed in his election, despite the fact that there was folks here last week calling for your ouster and the noose. And you've survived all that, so congratulations to both of you. And the last thing I'd like to do is, there was another issue on the ballot, and we're going to work through that a little later in the meeting, but there's a lot of really great things going on with our police department, so I'd like to read a letter that we received, dated November 6th, to Colerain Township, to whom it may concern. We, the undersigned, would like to acknowledge and recognize on our behalf and others with sincere gratitude and appreciation to those resolving a major concern which had escalated in our neighborhood for a number of years. And to those who watch, we had these 3 residents show up at our trustee meeting on September 12th, 2023, where the trustees took this problem on as a personal project. And what it was over on Memory Lane. There was a tenant over there who had some very nasty dogs, and they were out of control and pretty much scared the neighbors pretty bad. And one of them had been chased down by these dogs, and So the trustees took that on, and along with Chief of Police Ed Cordy, Lieutenant Jamie Penley, Officer Gifford, and so many others, immediately began seeing this through. We were kept up to date on what was being done and any progress being made. Through their efforts, a terrible situation that was rapidly escalating seems to have been finally resolved with gratitude and appreciation, and that's signed by those three folks who are recorded in the minutes from that meeting: Teresa Henderer, Kim Comer, and Jim Bennett, which we never want to have things escalate to the point where you bring it to the trustees, but I'd like to thank our chief and Jamie Penley and Officer Gifford for just their immediate action on that and making, if we can keep picking these things off in these neighborhoods one thing at a time, it makes Colerain a much better community to live in. And so we did receive a nice letter from those residents, and I just wanted to read that. So that's the conclusion of my report.
I'm going to say, I'm so happy that I'll be sitting next to you for the next 2 years.
Thank you.
So, and thank you for Jeff Baker to be here also. So I'm really happy that both of you are here. And Ms. Mays brought up our mock trial today, and once again, our chiefs were here. Chief Accordi and Chief Alan Walls were both here, and the kids were just delighted. They went through and toured the fire. I think they saw fire stimulation, and they loved the police lockup. So it's one of the other things our police and fire do is to educate our youth. So we had Northwest High School and Colerain High School on Tawana, and the kids did all the bulldozers and road, yeah, so they really enjoyed it. So just another wonderful thing that behind the scenes that our police and fire and administrative people do. And also, we had the 48th graduation of the Citizens Police Academy. That was 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, and last week, Connie, was it, there was the 35th Citizens Fire, right? Is that okay? And look to the calendars for our Colerain Academy. That's going to be coming up in January, February?
Usually we take applicants in January and start the program in either February or March, depending on how the winter's going.
Okay, and I don't know how many spots we got left for the Veterans Dinner on the 30th, but once again, people, please, it's a beautiful time. You get to see a lot of faces that show the history of where we are today. They got us here in our freedom. So it's just wonderful to hear all their stories. So please attend, anybody out there. And, and I saw the litter, 275 in Blue Rock today. Thank you for those people picking up litter. Love to see those bags. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Just a couple general points and then one larger. Thank you for everyone who showed up to vote. And congratulations to Mr. Baker as well. I think I have all the signs up. It's been an ongoing process to find 350 of them. If I haven't, just send me an email or text and I'll pick it up. Ms. Ulrich just mentioned the Veterans Program on November 30th. It's a fantastic program, and I believe the Banner program is now accepting. Is it now currently accepting, or is that as of?
I'm not sure that we're accepting right now, but I believe we're going to be.
It might be December
going
1st.
through that process again,
Yeah.
so, yes.
So, it's a great opportunity to honor our veterans. It's a great opportunity to honor our veterans. And if you have a picture of a veteran in your family, to get it up. It was kind of bittersweet Tuesday night because, and Mr. Unger alluded to it. We had an issue that lost, and we're going to try to work through it with the police levy. But I just wanted to say a couple things in general about the police and the police levy, and just where we're headed. First of all, as far as I'm concerned, and make this as very clear as I can, that as long as I'm sitting in this seat, there are no police layoffs. I know that there's rumors floating around that sometimes maybe other jurisdictions might be using to take our folks, and that's because our folks are good, and that's why they're trying to take them. I have no intention of laying any police officer, any police employee off. I spoke to the chief several times the night of the election, several times since then, and again, we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but for me, this is not a reflection of the community. I know that it's awful hard because it's personal, but sometimes I think people forget that we're dealing with human beings, and that these human beings often leave home in a bulletproof vest, miss their kids' soccer game so that they could go protect someone else. And I think that should be remembered as we have put together a group of all-stars in our police department. I want to keep them, whatever it takes to keep them. Our police force serves with dignity. They're professional. They serve with humility. They respect the citizens. They respect the law. They're fantastic. I don't want anything else to come out of this levy other than that something was voted down. It's not reflective of the police department because, for my money, Chief Cordy has put together, along with Chief Denny before him, a fantastic police department. And they ran an outstanding campaign. And I said that to Chief Cordy, too. I'm like, wow, you guys really brought your A game for campaign. I mean, analysts can look at this months later and say what went right, what went wrong, but it wasn't at the police end. You guys did fantastic. Men and women did fantastic. You were at every poll location. You had signs everywhere. You had, I don't know how many mailers that went out on door to door. You had, I don't know how many open coffee with the chief kind of format things. But like I said, this is a professional force. It's fantastic. They serve with dignity, and just a reminder to people, they are human beings and we owe them the same. And to think about that as we move forward here and what we're going to do perhaps later on in the session. But it just, this loss was something that resonated through my whole family. With a sister as a police officer and relatives, cousins, and things like that. And I didn't post anything at social media about winning the election until like Friday because it just felt like I didn't win anything. And I told Chief and I sincerely mean this. I would have rather lost than you guys lost, but we're going to fix it. We're going to fix it going forward, and we're not going to lay people off. And the positive change that we've made, we're going to keep moving towards it. This is a bump in the road, and it's just, I think for many of us, is going to make us more committed to bring to the folks in the police department what they deserve, and what they should get. So thank you. Please, I know you've heard this before from other boards. Please hang with us. This is taking care of the people that, I joke with my students in high school that, I signed the chief's paycheck. My signature's on every one of your paychecks. I get that. And I take a certain responsibility for that. And it's important to me that we're providing you everything that you need. So we'll talk about that more, but that's just to quell the rumors of, as long as I'm sitting here, there's no layoffs, and we're going to get it figured out. And I think Mr. Unger said the same thing. We're going to work through it, and we're going to get the police what they need. And it was a bizarre election cycle because there were a whole lot of things happening that maybe aren't as indicative. I do know the community supports you. I know community members that came up to me that were heartbroken over this, and they're going to work twice as hard to make sure that we get you what you need. With that, I'll end.
All right, in new business tonight, the first items are in public safety, and they will be presented by Chief Alan Walls.
Welcome back, Chief.
Good evening once again. My first item here is a motion to adopt the Department of Fire and EMS Standards of Response Coverage and Community Risk Assessment documents, and we recommend adoption of that motion.
I motion that we adopt the document just to get it to the floor for discussion.
I'll second that.
You want to discuss it?
It's a long document.
It is a very long document,
Did you write it?
I would like to point out that Division Chief Miller there is the author of that document, even though it has my name on it. So He gets all the credit. However, if there's a typo, then I get the credit for that.
So, I mean, not discounting this document, I mean, there's a ton of work and a ton of information in this that if you ever had a question about what our responses look like, who's responding where, how quickly we think we can respond, what types of hazards there are in certain sections of the community, because the hazards are not the same in all sections of the community. This document has it. It's an incredible amount of work and goes to show, again, the quality of product that this department's able to produce. And so I mean, if you have a question, it could probably be answered by way of this document.
So in it, they have the top 10 threats. Are those in those? I didn't get a sense that they were in any kind of order.
Not specifically.
Okay, because cyber attack was 10th, and I think probably going forward that's 1 and 1A.
Yeah, and what I want to point out too, and I think the administrator touched on it greatly, it's the most in-depth analysis that we've ever done in respect to the level of risk within the township and then our response to that. And this is part 2 of the accreditation process through the Commission on Fire Accreditation International. So we have the strategic plan. This is part 2, which is the community risk assessment and standards of cover. And then with its presumed adoption tonight, we would move on to the performance indicators, which there are 250 performance indicators that have to be written. And then we would go to the commission for approval as an accredited fire department.
It's so large, my computer won't even pull it up here.
I
Just
actually
like-
took a nice look through it when
Yeah,
I saw the agenda sent out the other day, and it's very comprehensive, and it's, if anybody at home wants to read it, you can go to our website and read it, and I would encourage you to. It's what you're paying for, and it's the work product of our fire department.
And this gives us a guide. I think when you game this out, which I think it's Mike Tyson's quote, everybody has a plan until they get punched the first time, is that the thing that to me is the added value here is that I trust you and your staff to deviate when needed when the conditions are different. Right. But this is just a starting point, and that's that starting point. What is it? Is it Plato? Chance favors the prepared mind. I think Plato. If not, we'll make it him.
We'll make it him.
Yeah, and I love that.
I mean, we could make it me, but
There
I'll
you
make it
go.
Plato.
But I think that initial, when one of these things hits, one of these threats hits, the initial idea of I know how to handle this, I have a game plan, is so important.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's a great point, because with the baselines and the benchmarks that we've established, then ideally we want to continuously improve. We get one of those incidents like you talked about where we get punched in the mouth. We can step back and look at it and go, okay, we know we need to improve this and this and this to equal that.
Thank you for keeping the high standards.
Yep, thank you so much.
Well, once again,
And when he said it's just the beginning, you don't need to write it that much more.
All right, so I will, have we motioned?
Yes.
Yes, we motioned.
Okay.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes, thank you.
all right, thank you very much.
Steve.
Item number 2 here is just for the purposes of discussion, and that's motor vehicle crash billing. And so just a little history here. You know, the cost of responding to those incidents, and that being motor vehicle crashes, can be significant. Tools, equipment, workforce time used could be recoverable with minimal additional work for the department. As of November the 2nd, we had responded to 395 motor vehicle crash incidents, with a significant number of those being non-residents.
Right.
And as we know then, the service that we provide is shouldered by those who own property in the township, with Interstate 74, Interstate 275, Ronald Reagan Cross County Highway, with Colerain Avenue, with Hamilton Avenue. You know, we respond to a number of motor vehicle crashes, and so there's an opportunity then to be reimbursed for some of that, an example being EMS billing. Our contracts with Springfield Township for Pleasant Run and Golfway, and so, you know, with this as well, there's an opportunity to have about $1.6 million in EMS billing, close to $100,000 with our contracts for Pleasant Run and Golfway, and then I can't really stand here and give you a guesstimate as to what we would bring in for motor vehicle crash billing. It could be in the neighborhood of 2/3 of $1 million that's not on the backs of our taxpayers with reimbursements such as this combined.
It's more of a user fee.
Yes.
I think it's an excellent idea.
So who does this? Do we know of other jurisdictions?
The city of Harrison does,
Right?
and they use a company that I've been given their contact information. I believe they last year recovered about $60,000. Now, we make 12,000 calls. They make about 4,000 calls. So,
Yeah.
you know,
So this is a little bit odd to me. So if I call 911 and EMS comes to my home, I get billed, right?
if you're a non-resident, it's soft billed. If you
Okay.
or if you're a non-resident, it's hard billed. If you're a resident, it's soft billed.
And on the other hand, if I'm in a, God forbid, an auto accident when I leave here and I need EMS, I'm not billed?
So you're billed for EMS, but you're not billed for the fire response.
Okay.
So this is an opportunity to recover costs for the fire truck, the rescue truck, tools and equipment that we use as well.
And does Harrison hard bill or soft bill or?
I believe that they hard bill non-residents only.
And that's what I would rather do, is hard bill non-residents. I don't want
Right.
to have somebody showing up at this trustee meeting. I live on Blue Rock Road, and I've lived here 60 years, and why are you sending me a bill? It's the first time I've ever,
And that's what I would propose, non-residents.
right, so the billing agency would look at, there'd be a method where they would confirm that it was a non-resident.
I mean, and it's not gonna be perfect, right? Because there are gonna be some folks that don't update their vehicle registration when they move, or their license, or things like that. So there will be things, but that's where this company, assuming that we work with a company, will be able to.
Well, if they had the
assist us
wrong
with that.
address on their registration, the bill would go to that wrong address.
Probably, yes. And so, but part of the discussion tonight was to get the feel from you all on comfort level with this proposal, and then get the feel from you all on the comfort level of contracting out the service. That's our recommendation, just based off of staff capacity to be able to handle this program and the expertise that certain companies have.
So-
How long would the commitment be if we contracted it out?
That I don't know, but I could find out.
I mean, I
with
would
further
want
discussion.
some sort of, try it for 2 years, and if
Right.
it's not working out, there's a way out of a contract rather than,
Yep, we could follow up with that.
So I have State Farm. Let's say that I'm a non-resident, get in an accident, and you guys respond. Would they work through my insurance company or through me personally?
Probably both. I mean, I don't want to give a wrong answer, but I'm assuming it would be both.
So I'm kind of gauging here to see how recoverable these funds actually are. I know City of Cincinnati, when they did a test of people that they ticketed at one point, there were somewhere around 30% that lacked insurance and or licenses and or both. And I'm just wondering how, what would a this is terrible garden variety response cost? What would it be billed? I mean,
Those are, assuming we further the discussion from this evening, those are answers that I could get for further discussion.
so I would like to have those answers, like Mr. Unger said, for non-residents. I don't think I'd ever want this aimed at residents. Non-residents, I mean, I would see that that a lot of other jurisdictions will probably go this way too. Once one or two start to fall, I think a lot of others will.
well, what do we bill for Run to Pleasant Run? Is there a flat fee for that, or to North College Hill, or wherever else we go? You might not know the answer, but I mean, is that a flat fee?
Specifically, yeah,
Golfway is a flat fee,
Right.
Pleasant Run, we get a set dollar figure per
Per year.
month.
I would say that'd be a barometer, Matt, just
Okay.
what we're billing.
Okay. But for some reason, I suspect that I have this picture in my mind of automobile accidents being a lot more intensive with equipment needed and stuff.
and they can be depending upon the variety of
Right.
the incident. If it's a tractor trailer that's rolled over with significant entrapment, that's a lot more resources and time and effort and energy than a minor fender bender on Colerain Avenue.
Or you take this unfortunate incident that happened outside of Columbus today. I don't know if you saw the news where.
Horrible.
Yeah, just awful, terrible. I mean, that's, I can't imagine what,
We had a 100-car pileup right over here about
5
10
years
years
ago.
So did you want to get this started right away? And I mean, our probably the highest traffic accident season's coming up with the weather.
Well, I like to make sure that I have the information to answer all
Sure.
the questions and then proceed accordingly then.
Would you bring something back for the December meeting that that would start January 1st?
I can certainly try. I'll bring answers to the questions tonight, and we'll get with the billing company, and we'll see how quickly we can make it happen, assuming it was approved in December then.
And it may take a little bit of extra time to get proper quotes, because odds are this billing company is going to want to keep a fee along with it, and if that fee exceeds our competitive bidding thresholds, which I would almost guess it would, we will probably need to try at a minimum to get 3 quotes for this, which could be the thing that takes more time along the way.
Well, you want to do it right, and you know, we don't want to get something where 2 years from now, if we went with the other company, we would experience a different benefit from it. But generally, as long as we're not billing residents, and it's non-residents that are coming here and, you know, costing our resources, I'm fine with it.
And once again, that would be my proposal, non-residents. You know, it's our residents who shoulder, you know, the burden of that cost, whether it's a resident or a non-resident. And with the number of commuters that we have through the township, you know, it's residents' resources who are tied up.
So we have 170,000 cars on Colerain Avenue daily. Is that about our approximation?
So a few.
Chief?
I thought it was right around.
Matt, to answer your earlier question, it is $350 per run
okay.
into West Valley.
170,000, was it? I thought that was one of the studies done.
High-traffic accident intersections in Springdale and Colerain and Galbraith and Colerain. So,
I think we've got the direction that we need
Sure.
to move forward,
Absolutely.
so at either December or January, just depending on what we're able to track down, we'll bring back further items.
we'll have answers to questions and then more information for the billing company as well.
Perfect.
Feel free to call any of the 3 of us at home individually
All right.
so we can get this going.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
All right, the next few items will be presented by Police Chief Ed Cordy.
Welcome back, Chief.
All right, we have item C. It's a resolution declaring a nuisance and ordering abatement. Addresses for this one are 9598 Amarillo Court, 2539 Grant Avenue, 7561 Sheed Road, 2458 Tiverton Lane, 2532 Topeka Street. Recommend adoption of the resolution.
I'll motion to declare nuisance and order abatement at the addresses the Chief just listed.
I'll second it.
Any discussions? No?
None from me. I'm going to go look at that Tiverton one there. That sounds like a historic one.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Item D, resolution declaring a junk motor vehicle at 2620 Cornwall Drive. 2 vehicles at this property, a 2006 blue Buick Lucerne and a 1991 blue Ford Crown Vic. Recommend adoption of the resolution.
I motion that we declare a junk motor vehicle, 2 junk motor vehicles at 2620 Cornwall Drive.
I'll second.
One of those is send extra officers over, if I'm thinking of the right address.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
I'm trying to think of which address that is over there where the, send an extra person over there when you go get it.
We're familiar with them.
I figured as much.
Resolution declaring, this is item E, resolution declaring a junk motor vehicle at 2629 Cornwall Drive. 1 vehicle here, it's a 1994 black Chevy Silverado. Recommend adoption of the resolution.
I motion that we declare a junk motor vehicle at 2629 Cornwall Drive.
Second.
Discussion?
None.
None?
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Item F, resolution declaring a junk motor vehicle at 3183 Lapland Drive. three vehicles here. It's a 2000. First one is a 2003 gold Chevy Trailblazer. Second is a 2006 blue Buick Lucerne, and the third is a 1998 Ford F-250. Recommend adoption of the resolution.
I motion that we approve a resolution declaring junk motor vehicles, 3 of them, at 3183 Lapland Drive.
Second.
Discussion?
None.
None.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Item G, resolution declaring a junk motor vehicle at 10138 Menominee Drive. There's one vehicle here, which is a 2003 black GMC Yukon. Recommend adoption of the resolution.
I'll move to declare a junk motor vehicle 10138 Menominee Drive.
I will second it.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Thank you, Board. The next item is intended to be a discussion. So we had the levy that was on the ballot in November, and the voters voted that issue down. Because of that action, we have a gap as we're planning out our budget for 2024 in the police district fund. So that's Fund 2080 on our books, and that gap is about $4 million for next year. So in order to address that gap, staff is proposing the below actions, which should help us to address the $4 million needs in the department. First is a hiring freeze. So we're down several officers at the current time. If we continue with just a pure hiring freeze in the police department, that should free up some cash to help with the deficit. We're going to look at eliminating all capital requests for 2024. So that would be cruisers. And then beyond that, we're going to look at some non-capital items, but that are operating purchases that we're going to make do with as needed for the next year. Those three things put together equate to about $2 million of the $4 million gap. After that, the recommendation from staff would be to look at the general fund to cover the $2 million shortfall as a one-time, short-term operating response to address this need in the police department. We will take a hard look at year end when revenues and expenditures are finalized to see if our projected fund balance at the end of 2023 is higher or lower. I suspect the fund balance will be higher than what we have contemplated in the 5-year forecast that's attached to this item. And if it is, that could impact any of these items that we've just discussed. So it could mean that we do a reduced general fund transfer to the police department. It could mean that we consider not doing a hiring freeze. It could mean that we consider bringing back capital purchases or operating purchases. But that, in my mind, is not a conversation we can have at this moment. We have to wait until we close the books for the year to really know what that delta looks like. However, knowing that there's a $4 million hole, staff feels that this would be a way to help get us there, but we really wanted to open this up for discussion from you all to get feedback on A, this very short-term plan, and then B, any potential levy items that you may wish to seek. For full transparency, the very next item on this is a resolution of necessity for a levy. Looking at timelines, if the board does desire to move forward with a levy for the next possible election, the next election would be the March primary. And in order to hit those levy dates, we would have to have something certified by the auditor based on action tonight so we could take final action at the December meeting. So the purpose really of this discussion is twofold. It's to talk about the short-term plan and then also to talk a little bit about the long-term plan so that you all can have whatever you need to take action on the very next agenda item. So I will pause there and allow you all to ask us any questions or provide whatever feedback you would like.
So fill in the gap here for me. This you're calling it a short-term plan with these 3 bullets: hiring freeze, elimination, capital request. Is that for 2023 or 2024?
2024.
Okay, so 2023 we're at where we're at.
We're at where we're at for 2023. Yep.
In a hiring freeze, and let me make sure that this is clear because I said this earlier, would be no layoffs within the police force.
No layoffs, just maintaining the existing complement of staff that we have on the books at this moment.
And I know that I'm meeting with you next week to talk about budget items in other places to try to cut as well. So this is a decision that's it's going to be a rolling decision. I don't need to know today, tomorrow, next week. We just need to start having the discussions.
From a short-term perspective, this is a plan that we believe will get us through the gap for next year. If the board wants to take other action or direct us to do something different for the budget that we're drafting, which will be presented in December, this would be the best opportunity as a board to talk about that holistic change.
So when we talk about taking $2 million from the general fund, these are like 9-point font. I had my magnifying glass earlier.
Sure.
The general fund is projected to be over, is that right, 4 million?
Yeah, so next year, the general fund was projected to increase because we had several projects that we started and we had to pay upfront costs for this year that we get reimbursed through grants for next year. And so our general fund balance, I believe, off the top of my head, is projected to be nearly $6 million at year-end 2024. So the recommendation here would be to take $2 million of those dollars and put it into the police department to help solve this gap.
And what do we anticipate to be year-end 2023?
Year-end 2023 is anticipated to be about $4 million.
Okay, what is the, I know this is Jeff McAravy, what is the minimum we can ever take our general fund down to for all our liabilities and what we have to?
So that minimum is set by policy by you all. We have a different threshold depending on the fund. I believe the policy goal for the general fund is 100% of operating expenses, but I can triple check that while we're discussing here to make sure I get you the best answer. And since that's a policy set by you all, it is at the discretion of the board if we decide to dip below that or dip above that, depending on the needs of the township at any given time. 1 second here.
At this point, and I see where you're heading with this, I don't think we would have much of a choice but to take money out of the general fund. And, you know, after the other two trustees, you know, I'm glad we're sitting here talking about it. I'd also like to mention that what happened last week, I would agree with Trustee Waller that it is not a reflection on our police department at all. I think we have 110% support from our citizens for our police. As I've said many times, our PD is the only thing standing between us and anarchy. Because if you guys were to go away, we would have all kinds of problems. I think part of what happened last week is, and let me say this, voters, we hear you. We heard what you said. It wasn't that slim of a margin. It was a little wider margin than I was very surprised by. If you go back and look at the ballot language, it says that the county auditor estimates it will collect $6,313,000 annually at a rate of 4.65 mils for each $1 of taxable value, which amounts to $163 for each $100,000. I think that with the confluence of the auditor sending out the vastly increased evaluations of people's homes, it was my interpretation that that was based on what my home is currently valued at, not the proposed valuation for next year. And I think a lot of folks looked at that, and mine went up almost 40%. But I think a lot of folks, I'm not second guessing what the voters think at all, but a lot of them had calculated that based on the new valuation, and that's just not what it was going to be. So if we decide to put an issue on next year or at the March primary, which is the next item we're going to discuss, would that be based on the valuations that the auditor has sent out? Because I know people have time to go to the Board of Revision, but I've never challenged my valuation over my 30-plus years of home ownership, and it just is what it is. But I just think the timing of this versus the auditor sending out all those new valuations. So, Chief Cordy, I'd make sure that all of our folks know not to take it personally. It's just a confluence of those two things happening at once. And yeah, based on my new evaluation with this $163 per 100,000, it would have been quite a bit more than it actually would have been, but I knew that going in. And so, as Matt said, esprit de corps, keep the spirits up. We will get something worked out here.
So my understanding is, to your question, that the millage will be based off the new valuation because the millage will be first taking effect on next year's tax year, which is payable in 2025. And so what we can do is we could send down any number of certifications to the auditor, and they will respond to us in short order to tell us what that exact dollar value would be that the levy would generate based off whatever millage we select. And so if we wanted to hedge our bets, we could send down multiple iterations to them to ask for feedback, because maybe we've got it all wrong. Maybe they don't use the new numbers because there's still this window for Board of Revisions, and so they don't want to call a spade a spade. They want to wait and see if it's something less
Right.
than that. But my assumption is that it's going to be based off of the new valuation, and if it's based off the new valuation, you're looking at a sizable decrease in the millage required to generate the same amount of revenue.
Right, and that's my analysis too.
Yep.
And so moving into I mean, I'm sure you two have other comments, but I'd be ready to discuss that. For those who have gone back and watched our meetings, after that loss, I did go back and watch the July 11th meeting, starting about 4 hours and 6 minutes into it, and you will hear that discussion we had back then. And at that point, we did send down 3 different amounts to the auditor, just to see what those would generate. And one of those amounts was, I think, $495, one was $465, and my amount was 3 mills with taking some money out of the general fund. And there's just a lot of moving parts to this, but I think it would be wise for us to send down a couple different amounts just to get them certified. And that said, we might look at it and decide, no, we're not going to go in March, or yes, we're going to go in March, but to do this and follow the process and get it done by the filing deadline, which I think is December 20th, we would need to, send these down to the auditor tomorrow and hopefully have an answer back in time for our December, is it the 12th?
That is correct.
Our
Yep.
December 12th meeting. So I don't know, your comments matter?
I'm in
Kathy?
agreement. I'd like to send the 3 down and vote on it tonight. And working the pools, nobody commented negatively about the police. I mean, they were very supportive. I was there with you. I think we encountered lots of positivity. I was shocked. Yeah, I mean, I was happy for you two, but I was really heartbroken over what happened. But it was, 46-52, or it was an 8-point margin? Huh? 8-point margin. It wasn't, and I have my speculations why it didn't pass, but those are mine, but I'd like to try again.
So if there's no further discussion on this item, the next item on the agenda is a resolution of necessity for levying a tax exceeding the 10 mil limitation. I intentionally left the resolutions blank to allow you all the opportunity to initiate a resolution for one or multiple differing millage amounts.
Why don't we each motion an amount?
Sure, and I will go ahead and start. I went back to July 11th to the information that you had in the agenda that evening, and the one I recommended was 3 mills even. And at the time, your analysis of that was that it would generate, I think, $4.1 some million. Well, 3 mills at the new valuation might generate a lot more.
4.8 million is the number that I'm.
That would be the new number. And if we all 3 pick one to send down, I'll stick with my.
I think you talked to me about the exact calculation we'd need not to go into any deficit was 3.99. So that's.
Roughly.
Roughly. I'll go with 3.99.
So I would recommend that one of you does a motion, somebody seconds it,
Oh,
then you guys vote,
okay.
and then you do a second motion, and then
Sure,
if you,
and
Matt, want to make a third, you can make a third as well.
And I will motion that we research a 3 mil levy. So I would ask that you'd send that down to the auditor and see what that would
Okay,
generate.
I'll second
Clarify
your motion.
The motion on the floor is a resolution of necessity for a tax levy, or for a 3.0 mil tax exceeding the 10 mil limitation.
Okay.
Yes, and that is my motion, and Kathy
I
has
seconded
seconded
it.
it.
So,
Ms. Orich?
yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
And I'm going to motion a .399,
3.99.
3.99.
And I will second Kathy's motion.
So your motion is a resolution of necessity for levying a 3.99 mil tax exceeding the 10 mil limitation for the police department.
He seconded. Yeah, he seconded.
I seconded it. Kathy motioned, I seconded.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
And
I'm fine with these two.
Oh, you're fine with two?
Yep.
Okay.
Well, and we'll see what each one of those
Okay.
generates, and,
Man, I can give you guys more paperwork if you want it.
well, you want to go in the middle of that in case, because we don't know what it's going to, or you think you do know what it's going to generate.
Yeah, let me motion it at 365, so we have
Okay.
three.
Second Matt's motion.
Okay.
So this is a resolution necessity for levying a 3.65 mil tax exceeding the 10 mil limitation for the police
That's
department.
not an indication that I support or
No.
don't support it, I just
Just to
put
get
it in the
the
middle.
Figures, and that's all I
Matt motioned, I seconded.
Okay.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Thank you, Board. We will have those 3 items back and for your consideration at the next board meeting for action.
Do you have any questions for us, Chief Gordy?
No, I don't.
As we said earlier, we're going to work this out and get it figured out.
I understand that, and we all have spoken individually, and everyone I think here understands my belief that personal belief and opinion that March is dire, and waiting longer could.
Right, and if it passes in March, we still wouldn't collect it until January of '25.
But we would have our answer at that point.
Right, yeah, we would have our answer, but obviously, the one that did not pass last week, collection would have been in January of '24, so this gives people a whole year to plan it into their budget.
Chief, maybe perhaps you could, when you say March is dire, be a little bit more explanative about that.
I mean, to be frank, it's going to be a little bit easier to be able to have our troops and our officers to be able to understand that we'll have an answer within 4 months as opposed to having an answer within a year. At the end of the day, people are worried about their jobs.
And they are getting,
Yeah, they're being recruited. They're being poached. They're cops are cops. They want every department around us is looking for people, and we are going to be the first group of people, just like the fire department. We are the first group of department that they're gonna come after.
And we want you guys to know you are valued. Just that 8% that came out that did not vote for you, it's not representative of this township.
I appreciate it.
And you will get clarity on if that's based on the new valuation.
Yes, what the auditor certifies back to us will tell us the valuation, the total valuation. as part
Because
of
the ballot language from last week says $163 for every 100,000, so it's probably going to be less than that.
Right.
Since the valuations
that.
have
And with it
changed.
being a lower millage, it'll be less than that.
you know, I did see, I don't know, I was asked a number of times, and I don't know where these things start at, that this, and I think the ballot language is the same, through the auditors, that this was going to go to the general fund or something, and that just is not the case.
Yeah, unfortunately, if you read the full paragraph that is on the ballot, it clearly states that these dollars are for police services in it. If you happen to miss that statement, you wouldn't know what it's tied to, I guess. But
Well,
it
and to
clearly stated.
clarify, I've got it right here, and a majority affirmative vote is necessary for passage. And it specifically says an additional tax for the benefit of the Township of Colerain for the purpose of operating and maintaining a police department. So whoever's putting that out, that
Yeah.
it goes into the general fund, would be just one more inaccuracy that is
I
out
think if
there.
anybody has questions, they should call the township, not rely on some of the social media and outputs that are putting out wrong
But it
information.
very clearly says operating and maintaining a police department right at the beginning of the ballot language.
Whether somebody's for it or against it, I want them to know what it is.
Exactly, have the
And-
right
and
information, not,
For others to hijack it and use it for personal,
yes.
personal political gain is just, it's absurd.
All right, thank you, Board. Thank you, Ed.
Thanks, Chief.
The next 2 items on the agenda will be presented by Development Director David Miller.
All right, first item under development is going to be a resolution declaring to be public purpose certain public improvements which are necessary for the further development of certain parcels within the township. So this is the Pottinger TIF. So if you recall, the Beavis, the previous Beavis Elementary site was set aside by the Northwest Local Schools offered up for sale. There is pending contract on that with a developer who's going to build single-family homes. And so we would like to get this TIF in place. Things are moving in the right direction there. The Northwest Local School Board approved this TIF on September 25th of this year. It would be up to approximately 100 new single-family homes. Within this subdivision, the valuation would be somewhere in the $18 to $25 million range, depending on the price of the homes and how many they ultimately build. It'd be a 30-year TIF that would commence 1/1/24 and last until 12/31/53. I'm going to guess some of us won't be around to see that money, but that's okay. When fully funded, built out, we would anticipate the TIF should generate, I believe, is in the $480,000 a year. Range.
Yes, and roughly half of that goes to the school district in
Yep.
form of a
So-
pilot payment, but
If it's $250,000, and that's on the a low estimate there. But so you have before you the resolution to approve the TIF, and we recommend approval.
Motion that we would approve the resolution declaring to be a public purpose certain public improvements which are necessary for the further development of certain parcels within the township to be known as the Pottinger Tax Increment Financing District, and authorizing the execution of a tax incentive agreement and establishing a tax increment equivalent fund.
I'll second that.
Any discussions?
Yes, and as this board and the two previous boards have done, we have included the school district in every one of these, and that's just another place where misinformation gets spread around. The school district is made whole on this.
That's correct.
So I just want to point that out and thank you for explaining it, and I'm just emphasizing it.
What role, so since this is a 30-year TIF, does the county have to approve?
so we've already cleared that hurdle. The county asked for information. We sent down our presentation that we had for our public hearing, and they were very pleased with what they saw and did not object. So we are in the clear with the county. They are not going to be asking for a piece of this TIF.
So they don't need to vote then?
They do not need to vote.
Already did.
All right, making sure.
And we got clearance from school board, so we're good.
Not only is the school board made whole, this is an additional amount of monies that they wouldn't have if this was not. I think that there's a belief that TIF money somehow goes to the developers. No, it goes to the township and it goes to the school board.
Yeah, I mean, these pilot payments are above what their tax levies generate, so this is a win-win for township and school. They both see a larger piece of the pie than they would have.
And before I started 4 years ago, we had very few TIFs. This is a way to reduce the tax burden on taxpayers, because it can't go to, like, police and fire services, but it can go to capital goods associated with capital improvements associated with those neighborhoods. So it's a way to kind of, it's Anderson and Green, they pay for a lot of their stuff through TIFs. So this is something that we haven't really used before, that we're, people are saying, well, you're just trying to tax. So this is an example of how we're trying to avoid those taxes.
And at the end of the 30-year period, whatever is remaining in the TIF fund would get then transferred out to the general fund for general purposes. So,
Okay.
And
So
was it-
theoretically, you could not spend the TIF the whole 30
so
years?
An example that we had actually in recent years was the Stone Creek TIF when that expired in 2017-ish. It was only a 10-year TIF, but all those dollars then were eligible to be used for general purposes at that point. So we used it to buy fire, police, public services, apparatus, and capital equipment.
It's a win-win.
Yeah, I mentioned earlier tonight that we had 17 new home permits. This would be nearly 100
Right.
new homes in Colerain Township. So.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Next item is related to the public hearing that we had earlier tonight. It would be the rezoning from B2 to R3 for the address single-family residence 7102 Springdale Road. And we recommend adoption of the resolution to change the zoning.
I'll motion to approve case ZA 2023-19 zoning map amendment from B2 to R3, 7102 Springdale Road.
I'll second. Any discussion?
Yes, I looked at the information you sent out. It is a house that is down the steep hill. And like was said earlier, it's probably because somebody just included that whole area in a zoning change for the intersection of Springdale and Harrison, but clearly it's a residential structure.
All of the homes next to it are all zoned residential. Again, it just kind of got caught up and.
Previous to any of us being here.
Yes.
Right.
30 years ago.
And it was interesting that the home had gone through multiple refinances, and no one had ever caught it then, but then it was time to sell, and one particular mortgage company did ask, and so we're glad we could correct this on behalf of the homeowner.
So what bothers me about this is that how many more are out there? Because in the case you provided here, the buyer, which it might work out to the seller's best interest that it delayed the sale because it might go for more, I don't know. But the buyer backed out because of that, and I'd hate for, something like this to pop up in other occasions and limits. I don't know. I guess our new zoning will catch these things or try or.
Well, it would be difficult because it's a parcel by parcel analysis that would be required.
Right.
And we're just not going to be able to dig that deeply into. And so these
We're
are
hopeful that there's gonna be
these are the anomalies,
Yes.
clearly. And again, we're glad they brought it to our attention. We're able to correct it for them instead of them having to go through the process of paying to do it. And hopefully, in the end, they will not lose the sale of the home because the homeowner is needing the cash out of the house.
So let me ask I may know a realtor, Ms. Ulrich, when you list an item, do you look at the zoning?
Well, we usually put the Hamilton County Auditor's report on it.
Okay.
And it says on there the zoning, but
If you're selling it by owner, it may not.
No, by owner, but the problem is the stipulations with the baking industry, just residential and owner occupied they can't sell it in the secondary market. That's the problem.
Right.
They could have went to a credit union, or they could have used a different financial institution, and maybe they would have had it on there. But more and more people do not want owner occupied residential housing with B2 zoning on their books. It's harder to sell.
Gotcha, okay.
So that's how I would, for the other realtor, I would have tried another savings and loan, but maybe they were just not pre-approved anywhere else. I don't know this.
Okay, I just want to, this involved a death and transfer of property and
Right.
At a very difficult time.
Right.
To find out we got to rezone, I don't know. I just would love to avoid this in the future.
No, I have something that has multiple uses, so it's not all lenders are gonna allow.
Okay.
Ms. Orch?
Yes.
Ms. Schronger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
All right, the next couple items will be presented by Assistant Administrator Jeff McElravy.
You're always the complicated stuff.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. I guess it's the nature of the role.
Gotta give you a hard time.
So the next two items on your agenda begin on page 197 of your board packet. The first item is a resolution authorizing the adoption of amended appropriations as we get toward the end of our budget cycle here, and we are approaching year-end close. There's some adjustments that we need to make to align appropriations with our revenue forecasts. The second item speaks to one of the appropriation changes. It's actually the first one that's listed in the transmittal memo. It's an increase in appropriations in the fire district by $505,556 to facilitate a transfer from the fire district fund to the bond retirement fund. This appropriation is replacing a prior action that this board took that transferred funds from the capital project fund for the fire project to the bond retirement fund for the fire project, when the transfer actually should have gone from the fire fund to the bond retirement project. So this change in appropriation facilitates adoption of the next resolution that is on your agenda. The next set of changes in appropriation are in the general fund. It's an increase in appropriations by $409,000, yes, to address A delay in the schedule for the Fort Colerain project that was referenced earlier. This is a project that was being funded out of parks, but as the schedule has evolved, this is a project where we're going to receive reimbursement in 2024, and the Parks Fund simply doesn't have the fund balance to be able to carry that in the fund for that time. So the idea is to increase appropriations in the general fund, which does have that capacity, and reduce appropriations in the Parks Fund to net all of that out. And then when the grant does come in from the state, those monies will be receipted into the general fund, and everything will be made whole, and the project's able to continue on. The second part of that change in appropriation is an increase in appropriations in the general fund for $9,000, and this has to do with the health insurance expenses for the fund. This will get us through the rest of 2023. And finally, the final change in appropriations is a reduction in appropriations in the self-insurance fund by $524,000, and this is due to cost savings that we've had in the current plan year. In the last budget cycle, we had anticipated that there would be an increase in the costs that would be borne by the self-insurance fund. But when we went out to market, came back with good quotes, and that's what is reflected in the savings. That is the reduction in appropriations before you. So all of those changes are reflected in the table starting on page 198, and the staff recommendation is adoption of the resolution.
I motion that we would approve the resolution authorizing the adoption of amended appropriations as described.
Second?
Any discussions?
It's pretty well laid out right here in the agenda. No other comments from me.
Ms. Orch?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Thank you, Board. The next item is on page 201 of your board packet, and this is that fund transfer that I was referring to a moment ago. This corrects amends a resolution that was adopted back in May. It's resolution 69-23. So this authorizes a transfer of $505,556 from the fire fund to the bond retirement fund. So that's Fund 2111, the fire fund, to the bond retirement fund, rather than the transfer that happened earlier in this year, which was a transfer from the capital project fund to the bond retirement fund. And staff recommendation is adoption of the resolution.
A motion to adopt the resolution, amending Resolution 6923 and authorizing transfer of township monies to another township fund.
I'll second.
No discussion.
No discussion.
Ms. Orch?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Excuse me. Excuse me.
All right, Board, the next item this evening will be presented by Assistant Administrator Mays.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Hello again. Okay, the next item is a motion authorizing the Township Administrator to execute a contract with Arcoro for Human Resources Management Software license renewal. This information can be found on page 205 of your agenda packet. Arcoro is our management system for our human resources department, so we utilize this for onboarding new employees. We also utilize this for signing documents like our W-9s when we hire employees, as well as our benefits management system when we do open enrollment for healthcare. This portion of the package is software licensing. If you recall, a few months ago, we did a renewal on our benefits management package. Those are two different packages from the software company. This price lock will save the township approximately $4,000 a year. You will notice that is a 28-month contract rather than a 3-year. This is just to match that open enrollment benefit package that we signed on in June. So that aligns us with the dates, and then also the price reflects that as well. Staff recommendation is an adoption of the motion.
Motion to authorize Township Administrator to execute a contract with Arcoro for human resource management software license renewal.
I'll second. Any discussion?
None from me, except it's all right here in the agenda.
It's nice to see a $4,000 savings. Thank you.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Thank you, Board.
Thank you.
All right, Board, the next item on the agenda is a motion authorizing the Township Administrator to execute a contract with KBC Inc. for 4,200 basement remodel at a cost of $119,840. So in late 2022, we've talked about this as we went through the bid requests for the bid package. We had the power generator go out at the fire training tower, which forced us to start to look at alternatives in order to offset some of those costs, potentially allow us to sell that land and building. So we went through a bid process. We received 2 bid responses. One was from AKJ Construction at $166,000, and then KBC, which is the low bid at just under $120,000. The full bid responses are included in the packet for review. Once this project is complete, we'll work with you all to evaluate actually selling the training center. If that's desired by the board, I think that would be a great option and a recommendation from staff. But the recommendation before you is to adopt the motion that I just suggested.
A motion that we authorize the Township Administrator to execute a contract with KBC Incorporated for a remodel of the basement of this building at 4200 Springdale Road at a cost of $119,840.
I'll second. Any discussion?
Go ahead, Matt.
So, Board and Mr. Weckbach, I will be abstaining from this vote.
If approved, we would schedule a meeting as quickly as possible with KBC, anticipating that most of the work would happen over the winter months, hopefully having, according to their schedule, the spaces up and ready for use in late March, early April of this year. One of the big factors here that would be really exciting about this is it would allow our Cincinnati State program to be completely housed inside this building. And then on top of that, we would have a new training classroom that our police department would be able to actually use to get some OPATA related classes here at Colerain, which could either lead to reimbursements or free seats for our staff, so either cost reductions or revenue increases.
And by the way, is any of this because of the water damage? This is just...
This all has nothing to do with the water
I just
damage.
want to double check that.
And this does help us, because I'm not interested in maintaining properties that we're not getting use out of, and this would allow us, and it would be my intention to unload the training center after this is completed.
Yes, and it would take some very large open spaces in our basement that are underutilized and program them.
Right.
Which I've noticed that since the day I walked in here, is that when the building was constructed 29 years ago, there was not much of a plan for that, it seems, and let this board be the one that gets full use out of this building. No other comments from me.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Abstain.
Thank you, Board. And the final item of new business is a motion to set the public hearing for the sidewalk maintenance assessments for December 12th at 7 p.m. Historically, we go through a process where we will go out using CDBG dollars to repair sidewalks along various streets of the township. After we go through that process, we go back and issue a 0% sort of loan to these individuals through the means of an assessment. That's usually a 5-year assessment in equal proportions. This is just the requirement that we have, is to have a public hearing before we're able to take action on that. So with you all setting this public hearing, we would have that on December 12th and look to take action later in that agenda to potentially put assessments on these property owners for the work that we did. And I would recommend adoption of the motion.
I motion that we set a public hearing for sidewalk maintenance assessments on December 12th, 2023 at 7 p.m.
Second.
One discussion is there was a resident that came up with the sidewalk information last time. Did we correct that information for the next time? He came up and had...
He wanted an extension on his...
Oh, so
And
that
the
was,
dates were
that
wrong,
was
and
a
there's-
separate issue. So these are the sidewalks that we've gone out and repaired. In certain sections of the township, they're not in community development block grant eligible areas, and so
Okay.
additional code enforcement means are what we use through that. Our code enforcement officer works with most folks that will reach out, and so if they're able to demonstrate that they're making progress, usually they will grant extensions because they know if they got down to housing court and that person showed the same documents to the judge would probably grant them extensions as well, so.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, we got
Well, and we're not looking to punish people, we're just looking to get the sidewalk fixed one way or another. I paid to fix my own 5 years ago. There was a 77 or 78 feet of it that I paid to replace. That was actually the year before I got on the board because I knew it needed to be fixed. So, Mr. Baker?
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Thank you, Board. And there are no items on old business. The remaining items are consent items, which I will read for you. A donation from the Miners family in the amount of $200 in the form of Kroger gift cards. A contract with Zix. This is a user agreement for a 10-month term, and that costs $712.50. And then we have a grant contract with the Council on Aging for congregate meals that has zero cost to the township. I would recommend adoption of all consent items.
I motion that we adopt the consent items.
Second?
I would like to discuss it for a second, because a lot of people didn't get to hear this. The Miners family, in their generosity and thankfulness, which is not required at all, it's apparently something we do every day at our Department of Fire and EMS, but they did send us a nice letter describing the performance of our fire department. I'll just go ahead and read it. Dear Colerain Township trustees, police officers, firefighters, paramedics, and community. Our names are Janet and Mike Miners, and we live on Weast Road. On July 22nd, Mike fell from a ladder while cutting down tree branches at our home. Our son-in-laws were there with him and able to call 911 right away. Help arrived within 2 minutes, and Mike was loaded in the ambulance and left the scene within 6 minutes of the call. Mike had many injuries, including a C1 fracture, which is the one you don't want to have fracture. We were told numerous times at University Hospital that most people with this type of injury do not live through this, much less make it to the hospital. We are extremely grateful to the Colerain Township Rescue Team from Station 26. We would like to thank all those involved in his care that day, especially the 5 men who escorted him to the hospital: Ace Aaron Schwender, Gavin Shannon, Ron Stanger, A.J. Walter, and Tyler Humphreys. It is because of their expertise and swift response that Mike was able to survive this incident. He is home now, receiving extensive home therapy and making progress each day. We thank you from the bottom of our hearts, and we do follow up with our patients, and they did send in the patient satisfaction survey, and they gave us a perfect score on it. Mike is doing so well that he showed up for our groundbreaking on October 24th, and his wife and him were able to grab a shovel and turn over a shovel full of dirt. And for those that couldn't make it that day, it was a great moment for the township. So I just wanted to give everyone a chance to hear that nice letter we got.
Yes, and Mike is one of 10 kids that grew up in White Oak, and they had a benefit for him last Saturday, and it was a huge success. So it just shows you our community does care about each other and have wonderful. They did so well.
I was stunned and amazed at the condition he was in, and that just goes to show the training level.
Yeah, yes.
Because when you pick up somebody with a broken neck, you could kill him.
Yeah, he
And
said just the way they picked him up just perfectly.
excellent
otherwise
work,
he'd
but
be
I
dead.
just wanted to share that with everybody, so,
Glad you did, thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Okay, now we have the fiscal office report.
Thank you, Board. I'll be brief. First, I also would like to thank the voters of Colerain Township. I look forward to serving as your fiscal officer for 4 more years. Secondly, the October financials have been loaded to the internet, so again, very good job by our finance department. And lastly, just a quick update on public records requests. We currently have 707 public records requests year to date. We have about a dozen that still need to be sent out, and we'll diligently get to that and make sure that those get sent out shortly. And that's all I have.
Thank you for all your hard work with those record requests. Do we need an executive session? No? Would anybody would like to adjourn this meeting?
I motion that we adjourn the meeting at 8:44 p.m.
Second?
Okay.
Now we're going to vote.
Also, we always forget about that vote. So happy to hit that gavel. Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Okay, now at 8:44, we are adjourned.
Thank you.